done with the place?
Sadly, starting to feel like home in here.
3, 2, 1, go!
This is not how I imagined prison to be at all.
A woman I knew a long time ago came back in yesterday.
And who are you?
I'm V.
You got something to say to me?
This place is bull. There's a storm coming.
What?
Boom, boom, boom.
I am a lone wolf and a vicious one. Don't make me rip your throat out.
Follow into the jungle.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm Chelsea Kanter from the Google Plus team, and I'm here with 3 of the amazing cast members from the recently Critic Choice nominated for Best Comedy Series, Orange is the New Black. Let's give it up. Starting on the end, we have the lovely Miss Uzo Aduba, Suzanne Crazy Eyes Warren. In the middle, we have Natasha Lyonne, Miss Nikki Nichols. And to my right, the one and only Yael Stone, Morello. So I'm going to kick it off here with a few questions for each of you, and then a few for the group, and then we'll open it up to people in the room that have burning questions they want answered. But I'm going to start with you. And first, congrats on your nomination for the Critics' Choice Award for what, featured comedic performer in a series.
Yes.
Did you know you were in a comedy series?
Good question. I think there was this great balance that Genji Cohan, who created our show, has managed to keep with the show. And I personally feel that in order for the world of comedy, as you know, I've heard Natasha say and countless others say, that in order for that world to really exist, you have to balance it well with the drama. And the circumstance of where we are, the tone, that in itself helps to set the tone of the drama. But, tampons and a McMuffin are funny, and peeing on the floor is funny, so.
And tragic.
And tragic, exactly. It's a balance there.
Tragically funny.
So yeah, that's right. It's tragically funny. That's exactly right.
Yeah, so the world got to know you as Crazy Eyes, but I first knew you through Godspell on Broadway. And then because of that, on Project Runway All-Stars. So tell me about the transition from Broadway and fashion to prison.
Well, there's a very clear fashion statement in prison, and it is that there is none.
Yes.
No, but even in the fashion, though, Jen Rogan, who's our costume designer, does a really amazing job with something that's so uniform and singular, and finding unique touches and nuances when you look at everyone's costume to display an individuality and personality within that I think is really interesting, whether it's Poussey with the sweatshirt, or if you have my own costume with the thumbs, or Nikki with the rolled up sleeves. Everybody has a touch of their outer self appearing in their inner prison self, which is kind of cool. But going from theater to television, I thought it was going to be this massive leap of a world that I didn't understand just because of the technical elements of the medium. But what I really learned doing the show was that good stories are good stories. If the story is good, my job as the actor is made pretty easy. Yeah. And thankfully, the writers on our show have made my job easier with their words, and have just been so phenomenally brilliant at crafting a story that I could understand, whether it's on a stage of a theater or on a sound stage at a studio.
So I heard a story that you went into audition for another part, but then they offered you Crazy Eyes. So can you tell us, one, what part that was, and what about your audition, what they saw in you made you perfect for Miss Suzanne Warren?
That's a good question that I too would like the answer for, you know. I went in, originally I went in and I auditioned for the role of Janae, who's played brilliantly by Vicky Judy on our show. She's done a phenomenal job with it and it's completely right and makes sense for it. I went and I read for that part and then I got a phone call from my representation and they said, you know, we have really great news for you. I said, okay, what is it? And they said, you remember that audition you went on for Orange is the New Black this summer? I said, yes, absolutely. Because I remember reading that script and thinking to myself of the things that I had read that summer, wow, that was really good. I would love if I could be a part of something like that. That would be great. And then continued on. So when I got the call and they said, you remember that audition you went on for Orange is the New Black this summer? I said, yes, totally, I absolutely remember. They said, well, you didn't get it. And I said, okay, what's the good news that you said there was good news? And they said, but they'd like to offer you another part. And I said, amazing, what's the other part? And they were like, Crazy Eyes. And I was still like, chicken and waffles? Like, I don't know what that means, you know, like, what is that? And, but when I read the script, it really did feel like the right fit. That just felt right.
So what about her was already on the page, and what do you think you brought to that character?
What was already on the page? I think definitely the essence of her truest essence, which for me I think is the innocence and her want and need to give and get love at its fullest was certainly there. There's a line in the second episode of the script when they're introducing Crazy Eyes. Piper's coming into the cafeteria, and I'm paraphrasing it now. It was written by Marco Ramirez, but she's walking into the cafeteria and she's looking for a place to sit, and then she looks right, and there, sitting there is, turn the page, Crazy Eyes. And he had described her as someone who is innocent like a child, except children aren't scary. And I thought that felt like the key to the door that might open this character, because someone who's innocent like a child, to me, meant somebody who operates out of impulse, who acts and then thinks. Children don't have agendas, they're not calculating, they're not trying to do something for gain, they're just doing it for the purity of it. It's like that animalistic survival instinctive quality within them. So that was something, but then whatever it is that she's doing, though, is not responded to with the same affection that it is when it is a child, is very clear. Yeah. So it's very clear, Yeah. And so I just started having this vision of that sort of, she's an adult woman with like a sledgehammer and a pacifier. That picture really came to my brain. I said, but that made sense to me. But somebody who's just trying to give and get love, as it felt like a love story. That's all I could see when I was reading it. I said, oh, this is somebody in the deepest and most honest pursuit of love.
What did you learn about her in season 2 that you didn't know in season 1? You can be as specific or vague as you want.
I will choose the vague route. No. What did I learn about her in season 2 that I didn't know about her in season 1? How far she'll go for love. I think I asked the question of myself, because when we were doing season 1, I was really interested in the experiment of answering, how far does someone go for love? Would someone go for love? In season 2, I have a piece, or certainly a scope of that answer.
Nice little tease. So one of the many things that makes this show so viral and shareable is its quotable nature. And the one-liners and the scenes and the memes that they spawn go across the web. So I'd love to know what your favorite Crazy Eyes quotable quote is from season 1, and if you can, one of your favorites from season 2. So I know my favorite from season 1.
Okay.
So
your favorite?
I know my favorite, but I'd like to know yours.
Okay, my favorite from season 1, my favorite quote, I mean, how can you not love I threw my pie for you? That's a pretty, I just enjoy saying that. That's that Crazy Eyes says, but like I have some pretty favorite lines. My personal favorite lines are actually not the lines that I say. But I actually really love the line that Sophia, played by Laverne Cox, says, please is for hoes and Oliver Twist. I don't know why I think that's hilarious. Every single time I hear it, I think it's hilarious. I just think it's hilarious every time I hear it.
I think we'd all like to hear a little chocolate and vanilla. Swirl, swirl. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And from season 2, is there a favorite yet?
Freeze from season 2. Do I have a favorite line from season 2?
Be careful now.
I know. I'm thinking. I like the line, 3, 2, 1, go. With no tone put behind it, so you don't know. I could be like 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. Like it could mean anything. Yeah, 3, 2, 1, go.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
The small piece. Natasha.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to you. So a lot of people here probably know you from American Pie, but you've had an incredible career starting with Pee-wee's Playhouse, and then a major role with Woody Allen, but and where I fell in love with you, which is Slums of Beverly Hills.
Thank you.
Because it has quite possibly 2 of my favorite scenes in film. One, can you tell us what it's like to stab someone with a fork?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really done that. Who do I stab? Carl Reiner? I think it's Carl Reiner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an exciting day. Carl Reiner and Rita Moreno and Alan Arkin. That was amazing that day.
And then 2, can you just talk gibberish with me for a second?
Oh. Says really, I'm not as young as I used to be. This is like 20 years ago. Yes, go ahead.
Hit a guy with a gar you to go.
Hit a guy, fit a guy, and this is gibberish. Yeah.
Gibberish.
Yeah.
I could say, you to go, kid a gum, put a geet, midagi.
Oh, I complete you.
Yeah.
That's so kind of you.
You're welcome.
I have to say, I'm almost like teetering unconcerned, but I'm also pleased to hear it and grateful to you. Thank you.
So other than, because one of my things that I love about the show are the little inside cultural references that are made. Like with you and Kate Mulgrew, when you say the line about, being her Spock, or with Jason Biggs making an American Pie reference to webcam horror in a shaving incident. Yeah. Should we expect more cultural references in the show? Is that part of what makes it?
I don't recall. Is my honest answer for you.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm hearing you. I just honestly don't remember which ones were. I'm sure there's another one. The one I remember is there's an Exorcist bit, right? Is it your mother sucks cocks? Can you say it? I think, right, when I'm talking to Maddie about kicking, right, to something about the drugs and the Exorcist happens. And then I was also in Scary Movie 2, the Linda Blair part.
Right.
So it's like inside of a Russian doll.
Yeah.
Deep inside of a Russian doll.
Inside.
Yes, but I don't remember what happens.
Tell me a little bit more about your relationship with Kate Mulgrew, because it's a great part of the show. Nikki had such a troubled relationship with her mom, and Red serves as kind of this surrogate mother. Will that relationship continue to be important in season 2, and will we see it change?
Yeah, absolutely. It continues to be important, and it changes. I like whatever's happening over here is exciting, and I adore Kate Mulgrew. I mean, she's got to be one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. She just is, she's like so present and forces you to kind of like elevate the quality of you just can't lie to Kate Mulgrew. You feel like you would be like called out in a second. Like she'd almost like stop the scene and be like, this is nothing. This is dirt. You can't give me something better, or whatever. Yeah. And obviously, I really should have done that role, as you can see by how excellent that portrayal of Red was. And and then of course when she does, break character. I mean, she is like a deeply funny human being, Kate Mulgrew. and just so talented, but also like so filthy. And so like between the sex and the fear, it's really a joy to work with her. She's really one of a kind. And certainly, yes, that is true of Nikki Nichols, has deep mommy troubles, and you know, it's you know, how great that in Kate, she really, you know, gets that figure and doesn't want to disappoint her, and yet, you know, Kate's whole, you know, Red's whole trip is kind of called in question, you know, by the end of season 1, and obviously there's a, you know, fallout of that in season 2, and so our relationship, you know, continues to be sort of like, you know, complicated and, you know, grounded in a deeper love, but also, you know, impacted by prison politics.
Yeah.
Which is actually a, you know, a whole political arena in prison politics.
And
yeah, you can be like the president or whatever. I'm sorry. I'm
fine.
with you.
You
complete me.
You made my life. Another kind of compelling relationship for Nikki Nichols is the one she has with Morello. There's an attraction there. What do you think it is about her that intrigues her so much?
I think that...
Should I go?
I think that... No, it's just we're taking turns. Okay. It's... you are next, man. You just have some Diet Coke.
I just meant if you wanted to be honest.
No.
Maybe
Oh, here you go.
So you should be honest.
So here's what I think. I think that... that as far as my prison wife goes, I'm in the room. Okay, so as far as my prison wife goes, I think that basically Nikki is so sort of like, you know, cynical and kind of like, you know, been there, seen that, like, you know, gotten high, seen the world, comes from sort of like this rich background that she's kind of pretending she doesn't in order to, you know, play the tough guy in prison and not get shanked. And I think that, you know, in Lorna, Lorna is so, you know, like sweet and pure and racist and, you know, I mean, in many ways, a very like problematic sort of, you know, like morally problematic character, you know, and yet, like, there is something about her that feels so, you know, just like sweet. And like part of, you know, what's insane about like her sort of casual racism in prison is that she's like genuinely doing it from a place of not knowing that she's even in the wrong. Like, you know, your whole West Side Story bit and whatever. Yeah. It's like she doesn't know that she's saying crazy shit. And I think that for Nikki, who like is deeply aware of all of that kind of stuff, there's something that feels very much like, if this girl likes me, she means it. Mm-hmm. Versus, you know, my mother who's playing a head game and is on some manipulative trip. Like, if this girl's spending time with me, she's just not a liar. You know what I mean? Like, even though she has, you know, she wants Christopher more than she wants me, the fact that she's choosing me means she actually, and so I think that kind of like underlying truth is at least what I've worked out of like why, you know, Nikki like craves Morello so much versus, you know, any of the other women in prison who may want to be with Nikki more than Lorna actually does.
Does that continue in season 2?
I don't know. I just, I have no way of knowing. It's, Yael, does that continue in season 2?
Yael, let's chat a little bit.
I just want to establish just that I didn't mean, should I go because you were talking to I just meant, should I go because you were going to talk about us and I wanted you to be honest rather than feel you had to say nice things about Morello.
I feel like Nikki has nothing negative to say about Lorna. I feel like Lorna has some issues to work out around Nikki. That's so potentially
Lorna.
What's hurtful, you know. Because I'm always like showing up for you, and you're always like, oh, Christopher. Fucking Christopher, right? I mean, it's like enough already with the Christopher.
Let's just meet Christopher already.
Is this a PG thing? I realize I just want to check in real quick. And
it will be when we repost it later.
Okay. 10 down for what?
So, let's talk, Yael, about Lorna's relentlessly hopeful nature and where you feel like that comes from.
Probably a prison. Yeah. Probably a place of being under real strain, I think that's when we really reach the hardest and really create the most detailed fantasies about how things are gonna be good.
Yeah.
Because it's tough.
Preservation.
Yeah. And along with that comes the hair and the makeup, because it's like, I gotta keep it together, everything's fine. I think in opposition to that is a really genuine relationship there, and a really nice engagement that's going on between them. But the other stuff is like, I'm okay, right, I'm okay. Which I have definitely felt myself and definitely seen in other people, and it's like turned up to 11 because she's in some really dire circumstance. I also think Lorna's a pretty good player in that political game. She's seemingly very ignorant, and she is in certain areas, but she can play. Like, she knows how to keep safe. She knows how to be under the right wing. As soon as Madeline Brewer's character comes back from her whole detoxing situation, she goes to hug her and embrace her again, and Red's like, "Nuh-uh, we're not friends with her anymore," and it's dropped, it's gone. She just drops a sister like that, because she needs to keep safe. And I think that's what's so strong about the show. The stakes are really high. You can get hurt. You can be iced out. You can be starved. I think that's the success of the show, that the stakes are like always up here.
Do you think that's why she resists Nikki? Because she has to play the game smart and not with her heart? Or do you think she genuinely is still holding out for Christopher?
I think that there's a tension. What's really interesting about her, and interesting about a lot of us as human beings, is there's a tension between our fantasy life and our real life. And sometimes we compromise decisions by like gripping on tight to that fantasy. And I suspect that's what's going on with her. But that relationship is always twisting and changing and turning.
So everyone in the room can tell she is not from Brooklyn. She is Australian. And the accent you've adopted from Morello has been called the best accent on TV. So bravo. But it's sort of...
Who said that?
There was a vote. It's sort of gangster, film noir. You've said it's sort of inspired by Adelaide from Guys and Dolls. Is that right?
A person.
Yeah. Cold.
Yeah. I don't know where I think there's a joy in like being an outsider and being able to see a culture in a different way. We as Australians, we consume a lot of American stuff. We mainline it, it's like, it's saturation. So there's this sense of being an outsider, but really having an intimate knowledge of an American culture. And I guess there's some parts of that culture that I've really been fascinated by. And I think it would be very fair to say there's like a pastiche of sounds from film, definitely from films. Yeah,
definitely. So we know that Uzo can sing, and you have a musical family, and your brother's in a band called Blue Juice, and you've sang with them before, and your equally musical sister. Will there be any singing on Orange Is the New Black with this musical cast?
I can't sing. I'm terrible. In fact, in season 2, we make there's moments of really making fun of it. And in season 1, like that Christmas pageant thing. Yes. Uzo did the ice skating. That was weird. Yeah. Natasha did the joke about the eggplant. That was also weird and very funny. And I sang very high. I'm not a good singer and terrible, but wow.
Well, we have a lot of people in the company who can sing. Yeah. Samira Wiley sings beautifully. Yeah. Danielle sings phenomenally well. Annie Golden is she was in the T-shirts, like in a real punk band.
Some musical episodes.
Leah Delaria.
Scat machine.
A beautiful jazz singer.
Yeah. We need to see this in the episode.
Impeccable.
Well, I mean, the end of season 1 was really the talent show. It was incredible. Yeah. Yeah. That day when we shot, when they was doing The Amazing Grace, was just like crying, take after take after take. It was the most beautiful thing.
Yes.
Incredible way to finish that.
Yeah.
Speaking of the whole company, and this question's for all of you. So the show goes through flashbacks for most of the prisoners, which are a brilliant way to kind of create these fully formed characters, not defined by their crimes or their race or even their gender. Which so far has been your favorite backstory, and which should we look forward to this season?
Ladies.
You know, it's hard to pick a favorite specifically just to land on one, because I think they all offer such a different cross-section of what the show is about. You get to see, I think what you just said is so right on. What's so amazing is we get to encounter each character for who they are, not what they've done necessarily. And what it is that, not by the crime, but what emotional traumas that they've been predisposed to or encountered in whatever situation, be it Vicky's character, Janae, you know, what somebody would do for love in part, or be it the absent mother in Nikki Nichols' story, or Red and her family dynamic, the dynamic between herself and her husband. So I think being able to, or Sophia and her backstory, watching that family dynamic play out. So it's hard to land on just one, because I feel each story is so fruitful and full of so many different aspects of the human condition.
I will say, without saying anything about what's coming up, having read the scripts, this season is really exciting, especially like to already know the characters, and then you know, to know them as people, like that now we've gotten to spend some time together is really, it gets deep this year. And so sort of like the favorites or whatever, I always feel almost like the show is sort of like if Rashomon and The Wire had a baby, like, you know, just be like that, the whole idea of like, you know, there's like, you know, my version of events, your version of events, and the truth. And there's also this idea of like the scope of the show, of like if you rack focus, that person like way back there in the corner who is just a witness actually is like the main part of the story. And what's so amazing of this show is like the scope, you know? It's just, you know, like if you pull back, like we thought the focus was over here, and then that thing that you saw passing by the frame that was like fascinating but gone is now like the centerpiece. And there's a lot of that it like happens this season, where like the people that you fell in love with, it gets in much deeper and in like hilarious, like there's one person's story I'm thinking of, like,
oh yes,
like,
yes.
Like her story
Yes.
is gonna be fucking hilarious.
Yes.
And sorry,
Yes.
hilarious. And then there's like other stories that are gonna be like really heavy duty. I mean, so I think it's gonna be a very fun year, whatever. Like, you know. And then it'll kind of like flesh out the whole thing. It's just like it's an ever deepening experience.
Deeper. So we encourage people.
I don't know why I said it like that, but jinx, because we said it at the same time.
We encourage people online to submit questions. I know we have questions in the room, so I'm going to ask you guys to head to the microphone to line up to ask those. And while they're doing that,
to the window, to the wall.
I wanted to get your guys' take on another topic that's been heavily discussed on Google Plus and across the web over the past week. So the show has received a lot of accolades for representing women in relationships in a real, true way, not based on convenient stereotypes or cookie-cutter things. And that's always been important. But it seems even more important in light of the recent tragedy at UCSB and the Yes All Women hashtag and movement that started. So what I want to hear from you guys is, what role do you hope a show like Orange is the New Black that exists to challenge the status quo when it comes to women's issues can have in making this more than just a trending topic?
I think the evidence was this week. Time magazine, Laverne Cox was the cover of Time magazine. Like, it's a pretty exciting thing.
Huge.
That is far beyond the scope of of the show and probably what we imagined the show could do. And it's so wonderful to kind of see that happening and changing, and this idea of, you know, the tagline was tipping point, like it's a moment of change for a lot of people, particularly for the transgender community. I mean, and then just the simple bare facts of saying, hey, look at this cast list, like on our call sheet, there are women and women and women and women and women, and how rarely that happens. I cannot say anything that I've worked on in my life, and I'm sure people of much greater experience than myself would agree that often the male-female balance is not equal. And so it's really exciting to have those voices and be part of something where we're not supermodels, we're all... I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Are we on the same show?
And also, like, I mean, to use, I think it's, I feel like I'm like paraphrasing something Laverne has said, but it's like, you know, this idea of like humanizing, you know, humanizing, it makes you, there's a greater understanding, right? Yeah. So that actually is the definition of paraphrasing. So I don't need any judgment, all right? But, you know, I feel like that's kind of happened. Like, you know, we put a face to, you know, I was talking about this recently, like I ran into this woman who was like a judge in Texas. I ran into her in Palm Springs and she's talking about like, oh, like, I'm so happy, I love your show, it's so great. You know, I sentence people all the time. I didn't even realize they were real. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is terrifying, you know what I mean? So I think that idea of like, you know, and I mean, I had to be gracious, which is obviously already difficult for me in a challenge. And the whole thing was a nightmare. And I was like, wow, that's so great that you don't realize the people you're sentencing are real. I'm so happy to meet you. But I do think that's part of what this show is doing, is kind of really like, you know, putting, yeah, I said this.
I think also what's exciting on our show, all of those things, and then just the additional layer of the behind the scenes on our show. It's so great that we have so many women and different types of women represented on the front of the camera, from race to gender to size to sexual orientation. All of these faces on a single show, I think, is important to underline. But then also, once the camera's been turned 180 degrees, that same representation of women is reflected back in the positions of Cindy Holland to Genji, to the women represented on writers, to our visiting directors, to Neri Tannenbaum and Lisa Billincora, and the list goes on, that this concerted effort seems to be happening with Netflix, aligning itself with its pioneering efforts in original programming, continuing on in the background as well.
Thank you. Sum it up. So I've kept them at bay long enough. So can we have the first question? Erica.
Hi. I thought of something. Thought of a few things. Thank you so much for coming. In watching the show and just seeing you here, it's just so clear that you're obviously very talented actresses, as you're so different than the characters you portray. But what would you say about each of your characters? What parts of yourself do you bring to those characters?
I spend a good deal of time laughing at Natasha, and I find that very easy in my real life. And as Lorna, that's what I'm bringing.
I love that.
I mean, I'm like, I guess that's, you know, piggybacking on that, which I enjoy doing, both on the show and off. I don't remember the question. I feel like using, I identify greatly with using, you know, humor as a deflecting mechanism in my life, as well as Nikki's.
I think the thing that I most like with Suzanne is the depth with which she wants to love. I have loved as deeply, that deeply before. I didn't pee on the floor or anything, but like I did love that deeply, but I did.
You just threw a pot.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that depth of love, I certainly can relate to.
And I loved as deeply, Uzo Aduba.
Oh, I love these guys. Thanks. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you guys obviously have really awesome chemistry in the show. I'm just wondering, do you guys also hang out afterwards? I just have this image of like Pensatucky and Porn Stash singing "My Heart Will Go On" in karaoke or something like that.
Now I want to see that.
That specifically has never happened. I don't think.
Though, do we have any real way of knowing?
That's so true. And for the right price, I'm sure it could.
How much money do you have? Was actually the question. Google.
Hello.
I mean, we do, like, we, you know, we're here, we're at the fancy hotel, You know what I mean? Like I came out of my door in the morning, that we were all in our exercise clothes, playing with my dog in the hallway. They were just coming back from exercising. Then we were like, we'll go exercise. So a lot of exercising behind the cameras happening. You wouldn't know it necessarily. One time Kate Mulgrew said to me, you go to the gym? That was a really nice thing she said to me. Anyway, but we do go to the gym. And so and then we came back from the yesterday's events, and then it was like Yael in my room, and then we were like jumping around the room, playing with the, there's a lot of playing with the dog and exercise. There's a lot of we go eat together.
Yeah.
We do we actually it's pretty, I mean, I've never seen anything like this. We really are I think that we made a choice below the level of consciousness early on of either this can be a disaster with all these women, or this can be a whole other level of just so much, joy and strength and all these sort of positive, new age themes. And we went for that one. And it is terrific, let me tell you.
Vagina.
Vagina.
Yeah. You could say it.
Hello, thanks for coming. My question is about preparation for the roles. Prison is a really complex place. So what did you do to prepare for your role? And what did you learn that you were surprised by in that preparation?
I'm going to slightly skew that and say, for me, each day I have to turn up. I have a very specific thing that I like to go through for Lorna, because obviously she's kind of a little different from me in some ways. I like to start with my prison underpants. I always wear them. They're very large granny panties, you know them. And they make you, and then the bra makes your breasts go in this kind of 50s style thing. And once I've got them on, I'm like, all right, this can happen. And then for me, hair and makeup is a great way in. For some characters, it's a wonderful place to go inside out. For Lorna, going outside in seems to work for me, and I really enjoy that transformation. And the people that look after us with hair and makeup are very special people and often under-acknowledged in a lot of these spheres. But that transformation is incredible, and I often will find from sitting down in the chair to getting up in the chair, I'm like, oh my God, I'm suddenly Lorna, and I didn't realize.
Cool.
Go ahead. I'm just, showing up. Go ahead.
My preparation, I did my homework as far as reading the book, and I watched I used to watch a lot of MSNBC Lockup, and but thank you. I love that you like it too. When they're in the watching through the window and the food all getting thrown at, anyway, watch it. But in the day, as far as the day to day, it's good. As far as the day to day, I do a lot of walking both before and after I start work, and usually as far as the going in on the day to day, the relaxation and the meditation of that to both let her in and welcome her in, as well as the putting her away at the end of the day, putting her back on the shelf. And depending on what the day calls for, sometimes a higher shelf than others, so that I can put her away and say goodbye to her, I find to be very useful in the opening up the space to allow for the music to sing.
I want to answer my question. I guess what I do probably is think about in prison, you'd be there every day. And when we're there, the way we were talking about this morning, by the end of the 6 months that it takes us to shoot a season, it's we're so beat down and beat to a pulp of if, at the beginning of the season, we were coming off of a press tour and kind of hair and makeup and, oh, wow, you're so great. By the end of those 6 months, we're prisoners, we're really just exhausted and kind of underfed and oversugared and just, beat. And I think that really mostly what I try to do and such a joy of this show is how little it doesn't matter if you get your beauty rest or you ate too much salt yesterday or something, you got 3 hours of sleep. I try to really kind of like live in that thing of however I wake up that morning, like that's fine, bring it to work, not like, you know, trying to, because if you think about really being in prison, it's like, you know, everybody has like good days and bad days. And some days you'd wake up and you'd be like, oh shit, it's life, let me go do this thing. And other days you'd wake up and be like, I really don't want to participate today, you know? And so I feel like I try to like, whatever the script is, it's kind of like, you know, memorize my lines. I already know who she is because we've gotten to play them for, you know, a good amount of time now. And then just like sort of like try to like hold on to that state and let it sort of, you know, like play into the day as like, you know, it's that way to kind of like bring in those levels rather than trying to like manipulate myself into a certain, you know, like something else. Like I just feel like that's one of the great joys of this show is that we're like not, you know, it's like beyond cable, this show. So it's kind of like a very come as you are kind of a gig. Like that's what is applauded on our set is like, you know, as much sort of like truth and kind of, you know, like being as laid bare as possible is what's, you know, like our language. And so I feel like that's, you know, part of what we all try to do.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and my question for you guys is a lot of my friends act. I used to act, and I always wanted to get into the business. And for a lot of people in my community, like it's really hard to like make it with like limited resources and not a lot of positive support. And I was just wondering, what did you guys do in terms of getting into the business and being a positive role model for a lot of people out there watching your show?
Well, I feel incredibly lucky that's really, there's a lot of gratitude. And I know many, many people who are deeply talented human beings. And I think that we probably all do, people who are really shining lights of creativity. And sometimes we get an incredible opportunity like this and you take it and you say thank you and you do what you can to bring your whole self to it. And that's all I could say. I don't think I have any special magic recipe other than just I'm so grateful to be here, so grateful to be here with you and to be with these women and to be telling such a wonderful story. It's for me, I'm just thank you, you know. Yeah.
I think definitely if whatever the area you can find it, to find training. If you can take if you can't go to school, take class or read plays and things like this are always important just to keep your finger tapped in. Maybe you're not working on the job at the moment, but preparing for it in some capacity. Gratitude and recognition of that, I think always in any area of your life is absolutely important. I think it, one, keeps you sturdy and faithful that something will come. And in saying the something will come, I can only speak to my own personal experience was when I moved to New York to start pursuing acting professionally. My mom dropped me off at the train station. My family's from Nigeria. We're of the Igbo tribe. And my mom dropped me off and she turned off the car and she said, Uzo, just work hard. She's like, all I'm going to ask you is to just work hard. She said, I don't know what will come. I don't know what will come. I don't know when it will come, but something will come. I've never heard of nothing coming from hard work. And that has stayed with me my entire life. I've never heard of nothing coming from hard work. I've heard of nothing coming from nothing, you know, to borrow from Lear, but it's like King Lear, but nothing comes from, you know, but I was like, nothing comes from nothing. But I mean, I've never heard of nothing coming from hard work. What, the when, the why, the how is less important to the doing of the thing. And something will come.
We have time for one more audience question, so you're going to be it.
Hi, thanks so much for being here. I was just wondering if you could talk about what it's like working on the format of Netflix and avoiding posting spoilers on social media or anything like that. Does that create unique challenges working on a show that is streamed through Netflix?
What's your question? It's like working for Netflix, and can you put spoilers? Is it hard not to?
The format.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
Netflix format.
You know, it's great. We're having such a I mean, it's really fun that it feels like it's encouraged for us to be as, you know, just like as good as we can. Not like it's not by committee. It's not like this sort of like watering down the product and the writing and like, you know, making things as safe as possible. It's keeping them as you know, intelligent as they are in like in the first draft, and that's a real treasure in show business, and that's really great as far as you know, and it's really great because it just kind of means that we get to work in kind of like, you know, a very protected vacuum where it's all about the sort of like creativity and integrity and like, you know, doing our best work. There's not a lot of noise, and as far as the spoilers on the internet, I mean, it can be challenging. There are many pictures that we take around, you know, like throughout the day that would be so much fun to tell people. But it really, like, I don't want to know, you know? I don't want to know things. Like, I don't want to know about the end of the Crying Game before I've watched it. Let me just watch the Crying Game.
That's right.
Stop trying to tell her the end. Stop.
I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but I just want you to not tell me what happens at the end of the Crying Game.
I think the format, the way it's kind of laid out, it's like, here's the feast. You can eat it as fast as you want or as slow as you like. And some people are like, nibble, nibble, nibble. Other people are like, and I think that that's a great thing. We love choice. That's kind of the world we live in now. People delight in being like, oh my God, I watched it all in a row. It was amazing. And other people are like, I'm going to spend the next year watching this thing and only watch one frame every night. Yeah. But I think that that's really a joyful experience. It also means that people get like sucked into this stream. So narrative-wise, you can tell stories in a really fast, direct way. You're not recapping. If a viewer wants to go back, they can go back in their own time and rewatch something, get clarification on something. But otherwise, it's just like, go, go, go. You can keep going. And I think that does have something to do with the fervor of people's excitement because they've had this experience that's like, you know, it's like a Michael Barney film. It's just like people are just in there for 8 hours, just like, my God, this is my life. Yeah. So I think that the format is a really successful format, and it is acknowledging that people want choice with the way that they watch things, and they don't want to have to wait every week for you know, 1 hour.
And what you said yesterday, whatever, which is that it like ends up appealing to like, you know, sort of the highest common denominator rather than that sort of like, you know, undermining the intelligence of the audience of like, you know, you said that yesterday.
Yeah. She was listening.
I agree. I agree. I think it's true. You know, the way that the format is set up, I think it's writing for the entire shape of a piece and I think what we have that's really exciting is the writers have the opportunity to tell the stories that they want to tell, start to finish and see those through, rather than writing to a response. Does that make sense? And that, I think, has been very interesting to watch when you allow the art exist fully and completed, how people have been, thankfully, delighting in it in that way. You're allowing them to give their full voice, be it from the writing then and also from the performance then. That's been really wonderful. And that it's consumed equally as well. And I think, yeah, the binging element, you know, I think of it like Burger King, you know, you can have it your way. Like, really, it's just like, you know, but you can really just enjoy it the way you want to watch it. So I don't know yet. I haven't seen the hindrance from having it laid out all at once.
And there's something I heard Genji say the other day or whatever, which is this idea of like there's kind of like no small characters in this format. Oh, so yeah, that like even if a character is only like living in little bursts or like one scene, every 2 episodes or something. The nature of watching 13 hours of something means that, that character is like becomes very vital. So, that idea is also sort of exciting, like, that you can just give like a little, flavorings in the salt and pepper seasoning.
Having said
that was a great point.
Try to walk around the city with Connie Schulman, who plays Yoga Jones. That's a really interesting experience because people are obsessed with Yoga Jones, and if you add it up all the time, she's not there that often. But that experience of just like this full family, people have a real sense of characters, and there's a real sense of depth in what otherwise might be a cameo. You know?
But that's great. Yeah, that's right, because the point, like what Natasha was just leaning on, when Genji said that, I thought that was so smart when she said that, because characters that could easily be misplaced on a series that you roll out over the course of 26 weeks, because people watch it sort of close together. Someone that popped in as a pop of color in one episode, suddenly now in another season or 4 episodes later or 6 episodes later can have a backstory, and you can track it because you just watched it 3 hours ago.
It's almost like a great book.
Yeah.
Like you can either read it all the way through or you could read it a chapter at a time.
Absolutely.
But it builds like a great story.
It's very Dickensian in that way as well. The way that we, A Tale of Two Cities, where somebody you meet in the beginning, you think, but they have such an important, Charles Darcy suddenly is like the most, that's the most important, character in the whole way, the way that's sort of managed.
So we're going to wrap it up, and I want to give each of you one sentence to describe what makes season 2 great. Just one phrase to describe what makes season 2 great.
I did a stunt. Yeah, I jumped out a window.
I don't know how to do this kind of thing.
Just brain dump, whatever.
I got turned down for what? I don't know. Yes, I had there's a lot of. I got to meet a lot of women this season.
What makes season 2 great? That's my sentence. That's my sentence.
All right, let's give it up for them. Thank you so much. Orange is the New Black, June 6th on Netflix. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.